All right, Derek, today on the show, we have journals, pocket knives, sleep, shoes, stocks. How does that all relate to dynamic growth? We're going to find out.
If you like the podcast, share with a friend. Like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Dynamic Growth Pod and at Crosby Advisory Group. And let's get into it.
All righty.
So Nate, we're doing this podcast and we each have topics, but just to cue the audience in, we don't know what the other person is going to talk about, and so we're going to try a kind of a different format for this episode. But Nate, you can go ahead and take the floor. What's your first topic that you wanted to talk about this week?
Well, I'm going to give you two items that are indispensable for me, that are not investment related, but are something that kind of define who I am. And I think two items that have maybe helped me along in my journey in life. And the first one is a journal. And before everybody cuts out on this, let me explain what's going on here. So around 2003, I was introduced by a motivational speaker, or introduced to a motivational speaker by the name of Jim Rohn. He has had many books out there, but one of the things he said that caught my attention is he said, if you are interested in becoming wealthy, if you're interested in becoming an influencer and interested in being a cultured person, then you need to keep a journal. He said the reason for that is you should never trust your mind to remember things. So along the way, you'll come into quotes, you'll come into a thought that you had driving in the car. You'll have something that entered your mind that made that light bulb go on. And if you don't write it down, most of us lose it. I have fell victim of that many times as well. Now, I don't keep a journal with me everywhere I go. Since the invention of the iPhone, I've written things down on the note section or typed things into the note section, but I would transfer that into a journal. So let me fast forward then 11 years from 2003. And I'm sitting in my office. We had just opened up a brand new office in Ashland, which has now become our main office. And Macy and I were sitting there. We were working together. And in the beginning, we were trying to get people to become aware that we had opened that office. So we were looking at different marketing techniques. And one of the things we did was we hired a radio rep to put us on a number of different channels and advertise our office and our service, something that I will probably never do again. But it was a learning curve there. But when he was in the office, getting to know us, asking questions about us, he looked down, he said, "That's a cool book." And I looked down, it was my journal. I said, "Well, it's not a book, it's a journal." And he says, "Like Dear Diary?" I said, "Well, it could be if you wanted to, but that's
like,
not
nerd.
Yeah, that's not how I use mine." I go, "You don't keep a journal?" And he's like, "No." I said, "Never?" And he's like, "No." And I said, "How many $100,000 ideas have entered your mind and then left?" And he paused for a moment and he looked at me and he said, "Sadly, all of them." And I thought about that. And, a journal can be used for many different things. It could be used for, and that's the cool thing about a journal, is it's limitless. Like there's no protocol that says this is how you have to use it. And a journal could be anything that's from a loose leaf paper to something more sturdy. I tend to use like hard, sturdy leather things because I'm always throwing them in books and bags. And at this point in time, I've got journals for different topics. I've experimented with journals and how to use them in a number of different ways. I used to start out with, I would carry 2 different types of ink with it. So I could leaf through it really, really quickly and discover if it was for business, because it would be in one color, or if it was a personal, or if it was a quote, it might be in a totally different color. I love quotes because quotes are, one of the reasons I like books is because it's a condensed, someone's lifetime over a condensed, a couple hundred pages, right?
Right.
And a quote is even shorter than that. It's in a couple sentences where somebody's nugget of wisdom can be entered. So I love quotes. I love to write those down and recall them later. And the other thing, the way that I've used a journal before is sometimes I will use them as a stream of thought. Someone once told me that if it's not important enough to write down, then it's not important enough to achieve. And people always say that with your goals, like a New Year's resolution or whatever you have as a goal, write it down. And I would get into the practice of writing those goals down every day. So I would wake up in the morning and I would open up my journal and I would write down what my goals were. And then I would write down a couple steps that I was going to take that day to move me closer to that goal. And then I would make sure that those steps were one of the first things I did during the day. So if the rest of the day, went to hell, as long as I accomplished those first couple things that moved me closer to my goal, then the day was a success. And so a journal kind of helped me keep me on track for that. The other thing I do is, I guess if we pan farther to the left here on my, and if I did that, I'm probably going to lose my audio, so I won't. But my bookshelf is not full of books. Well, I got a couple books up there, but it's full of journals. And journals that I've kept all the way back till 2003. And one of the things that I do with those journals as a practice is every December, when things start to slow down a little bit, I will make a habit of pulling those journals out, and I will leaf through them. I won't read all of them, but I'll leaf through them. And what's amazing to me is the problems that I thought were problems years ago, I've outgrown them. And so one of the things that it has taught me is to be bigger than the problems. And so some of the problems that we face today as a business, I record in my journals and I talk about it. And sometimes I'll do a stream of thought. I'll just write out, and sometimes it's incoherent, but that kind of allows me to get those ferrets that are running around in my mind. Sometimes it allows me to put those on paper and make sense of them. And I look at the problems and I realize that the problems we have today, one day we're going to outgrow them. And I'm going to look back and think they're silly.
This too shall pass, right?
This too shall pass. Yeah, absolutely. And so I think it's important to keep that as kind of a note in history is that we always want to be bigger than our moment. And I always tell Macy that. Macy, when we first opened this office, I said, we're Ashland, Ohio. We want to be bigger than Ashland, Ohio. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with Ashland, Ohio. It's a great place to raise a family. It's a great place to have a business. But our scope, our outlook is bigger than Ashland, Ohio. And I want it to be bigger than the United States. And the journal helps me do that. So indispensable to me is the journal. I write down, when somebody gives me a book idea, I'll write it down in the journal. When I have a thought, whatever that is, I'll put that in there, because then it allows me, I can go back to that and expand on it. A lot of the ideas that we have for this podcast, or a lot of the ideas that we have for, you and I right now are working on revising our next book that we're coming out. Well, a lot of those ideas actually come from that journal, which would have all been lost without the journal.
So I have a question. Were you a notes taker in school?
I was, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not really a journal person, but I'm a big proponent of physically writing stuff down, especially for memory. There's been like studies that show like if you actually are physically doing the act of writing something down, you remember it better than if you're typing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it's the same for your goals as well. I'm a big proponent of if you didn't write it down, then like you didn't care about it enough, kind of like what you said. I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah. It's really good.
The journal gives me in many ways a direction. By writing it down, it concretes it, puts it in my mind, right? And then so if I have this goal that I'm working towards, one of the things that I think that happens a lot of times is, I think it was the last podcast we were talking about how if you're looking to buy a red sports car, all of a sudden all you see on the road is a red sports car. Or if you're looking to buy a different vehicle, and that's not because all of a sudden they said, oh, look at this, Derek's going to buy this vehicle, let's get more out there. It's the fact that your mind's looking at them and it's looking for them without even thinking about it, that your subconscious mind is kind of working towards that problem. I think that's what a journal helps you do. And especially for the business, I'm constantly writing down what I want the business to be and what I want it to represent. And I would tell you, so when you started working as an intern for us, how many weeks was it that went by before I offered you a job?
I don't know. It was there because there's kind of a gray area there. When I first started, I was just doing like, you just had anything that overflowed the workflow would kind of get passed on to me, and I would just doing odds and ends stuff.
That was before you showed up to the office.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's really a crazy thing, because we knew each other and were communicating for about maybe a little over a year before I ever like saw you. It was
right.
Yeah, it's funny. But when I was working in the office, I don't know, man, it could have been like a month, I think. But like one of the things I'll never forget was like the first thing you had me work on was like something with like the trade blotter where you're physically entering in all these trades. And it's like, I wish I was there when you guys started, because I could have like, think about all the time you spent working on that thing, and I automated it like instantly, because it's some very basic Excel functions. Like you guys needed the chief innovation officer,
We definitely did. Ask Macy sometime about the time that we were, for our clients, the trade blotter is every time I process a trade for a client, I have to record that. And the reason I record it is numerous reasons. I want a history of that, what we purchased. But 2, we want to verify that there was no mistake. So if I purchase 5 shares of Apple for a client and instead the custodian bought 5 shares of Amazon, right? Apple Tree, yeah, or something else, right? Then we want to know that because we want to be able to correct that. We want to make sure the trades are processed as they should be. So we were about to get audited.
Stuff down, right?
Writing stuff down.
Write stuff down.
Got to record it. We got notice from the Department of Commerce that get prepared because we're coming on this date for an audit. And so I'm collecting everything, getting everything in order. And I said to Macy, I said, okay, let's make sure our trade blotter's in order. And whatever we did, we lost it. We lost about a month's worth of trade blotter. So Macy and I, over a period of about 5 days, I don't know how many hours we spent on this trying to recreate it, but it was a nightmare. But you came along and being much more technical savvy than what we had been in the past, made that process much more automated. And so my point is, where I'm getting to with this is, for years I have been writing down what the business is and what it represents and what it's going to be for people. And when you came along, you had said about a month. I want to say it was within 2 or 3 weeks that I had offered you a job. And this was when you first came to the office. And the reason is because when you came in, it was like that puzzle that fit in. And my mind was looking for these components and these pieces and parts to create this thing that we're looking for. And right away I saw you and I was like, this guy can help us get there. So it was without delay that I said, hey, if you want to do this for a living, we got a job for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. Not to change subjects or anything. I just wanted to go back to journals for a second. Do you think the same thought processes and the same way your brain acts when you're writing in a journal, do you find it works in a similar way to when you're researching for the podcast or like just doing the podcast in general? Because I kind of feel that because I write a lot of notes for the podcast, and it's similar to how a journal works, where I'm writing all my thoughts about the given topic that week, and it kind of forces me to like not do the surface level analysis, but really try to get deep and provide the listeners with something that they didn't know, or a different view on things that they didn't see before. And I'm not saying I'm like super insightful. I'm going to give that every week, but that's just the attempt. But do you kind of think that your brain works in a similar way when you're doing the podcast?
I do. I think that one of the things that writing does in general, I'm not talking typing on a keyboard, I'm talking writing. Mm-hmm. I think it almost puts you in a little bit of a trance in the sense that you are tunnel visioned into what you are thinking and researching about. Mm-hmm. And so the problems of the world that are going on at the moment are lost in that page. And I think it allows me to put full resource into whatever I'm thinking about. So if I'm writing a book, I'm writing it on paper before I'm typing it because it really allows me to dive deep into that. So I think that is the case.
Interesting. There's a, like in philosophy, there's like 2 schools of thought where like there's the philosopher that goes off into the mountains and completely secludes himself from everybody, or there's the philosopher that's actively engaged in discourse. I think like a Noam Chomsky, who's like very vocal in the media and everybody kind of knows who he is. Or like I think Plato was like one of the guys who would just go off in the mountains and then come down with like all these great works. And it's kind of, yeah. I mean, that was just kind of a separate thing, but I think there is something to like blocking yourself off and just concentrating on thought. I think there's some merit in that. Didn't
Ralph Waldo Emerson, wasn't he famous for, a lot of his works he went to, I can't remember the name of his pond that he went to, that he would basically write all that stuff down, but he would essentially take himself out into the wilderness for long, long stretches of time and then come back with these concise thoughts that were poetic in many ways.
I believe if I had to take a guess, don't know this for a fact, I would guess that Stephen King would probably be the same way because that's consistent in a lot of his books. Like you look at The Shining, he was secluded in the, or maybe this is just like a tactic that he uses to like invoke some sort of discomfort when you're completely isolated. That could be the case too. But like The Shining, he goes off away to write. In Misery, he goes off away to write. Shawshank Redemption, he's kind of secluded. And he doesn't write, but like there's that element of seclusion. So I wonder if Stephen King does the same thing.
Yeah, not sure. Walden Pond, I believe, was the name of the place that Emerson went to write his stuff.
Interesting.
The last thing I would say is when you pick a journal, I know we're doing videos for some people on YouTube, but for those who can't see it, if you look at my journals, they're mostly leather, and they're basically they're pretty simple. Most of them are lined, but they don't have to be lined. but they're sturdy. I can stuff them places and they're not going to deteriorate. I can pull them off shelves, leave them there for a long period of time. They're not going to deteriorate. I like the leather because I like the way it feels. I like the way it smells. And when I hold it, I want to write something down into it. It's something, like when you get a book and you pick it up and it has that smell to it that you don't get like on a tablet. It almost like puts me in the mood to start writing. And so in some of these journals, I would pay maybe $25 or $30 for, which seems kind of crazy for that. But this goes back to, on a different level here, Macy would tell you that when we first started opened our office and we would get all these different like cheap pens in there, I would throw them away. And she's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "It was like a 2-cent Bic pen." Mm-hmm. That drives me crazy. To me, if I'm going to write, it has to be a nice pen that feels good when you're writing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, and you might pay a couple more bucks for that, but how much is that $100,000 idea worth? Like if it puts you in the mood to write that, and if you're going to keep it in something, to me, it makes sense to keep it in something that's going to stand the test of time rather than something that's going to get crinkled up and destroyed.
I always say that about a lot of stuff. Like headphones are a good example because you get the iPhone headphones that, they don't give them to you anymore, but they used to give you those the crappy ones that you would end up at the bottom of a backpack in my case. But like you spend some good money on a pair of headphones and you're going to take really good care of them. And like same with shoes. If you spend some money on shoes, you're going to take more care of them than if you just. I know you're not a shoe guy, but like, sorry, go ahead.
No, I would say I have learned that about shoes, and this was actually taught to me by somebody I used to work with before. When I used to buy my dress shoes, I would buy a $30, $40 pair of shoes, and they would last for 6 months, and I would buy a new one. And what I realized is if you spend the money, if you spend them $150 or $200 pair of shoes, which sounds crazy, right? That's expensive, but they'll last you years.
Yeah,
as long as you take care of them, they'll last you years.
I'm kind of salty because. Like just finishing up college, like I'm a broke college kid still kind of, and I've had I went through a phase like freshman and sophomore year where I'd be buying like a lot of shoes. Like I got really into it for a couple of years, and now I've just kind of been more like conscious about like saving money and investing and stuff. So I haven't been spending frivolous money on nice shoes, but all of the shoes I have are starting to fall apart. So I have to like go back into the market and buy some nice pair of shoes. It just kind of sucks because you have to bite the bullet, but it's funny.
But it's an investment for sure. I mean, it's tough to say shoes are an investment, but they are because they'll last you longer and good quality.
Or you can speculate on them on StockX. They are literally an investment. Yeah. So
the second piece of second item that kind of defines who I am, that has nothing to do with investments, and I don't think it will. Obviously, by itself, it's not going to make you wealthy. It would be a pocket knife. And it doesn't have to be a pocket knife in the sense that you carry in the pocket. A lot of the modern knives now have like clips on them that you can carry. But it all stems, I'm going to keep this one short, but here's why. And this is from a great philosopher by the name of Fred Durst. Do you know who he is?
No, actually.
He's not a great philosopher. He's the lead singer of Limp Bizkit.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Yeah, gotcha.
So years ago, when Limp Bizkit was popular, he was on Howard Stern one time, and I was listening to him, and he said something that made me stop and think a little bit. He said, if you want something done, you give it to a busy person. And I thought about that. I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. If you want something done, why would you give it to a busy person? The reason that they're busy is because they can be counted on. People count on them to do stuff. So, Derek, if we are ever in a situation where we are at work and we're sitting at our desk and we're looking for something to do, that's a problem. Mm-hmm. We want to be busy, and I've told Macy this and Julie this before. It should seem like a little bit of controlled chaos. If we're doing our job right, we should be up to our gills in work, and that's because people trust us. People trust us to get the job done and get the job done right. So why a pocket knife? A pocket knife, in my mind, you can tell, you can find a lazy person if you pull their pocket knife out and it's dull. A pocket knife, a pocket knife, if you're carrying a pocket knife daily, what you're saying is, I'm prepared. I'm prepared for whatever comes my way. And I'm also thinking about things that are beyond me. So if you've ever been at like a game or a picnic or something like that, and somebody says, hey, anybody got a knife? And it's always that old timer, that old guy who reaches in his pocket, he pulls out his knife and he's ready to go. He's got his act together. I don't know what he does for a living, but he's thinking about something other than himself because somebody might need this, not just myself. And if you're going to carry one, you're going to take the time to keep it sharp and learn how to keep it sharp, learn how to take care of it. So that goes back, and somebody might say, well, who has time for that? And that, I guess, goes back to my first statement here that if you want something done, give it to a busy guy. So a pocket knife in many ways keeps you prepared and it keeps you thinking about the future.
They some people are really into handkerchiefs, and they say the same thing. It's like because it's not necessarily for you, but if you're like I don't know, if you're a bachelor and you're and you're at the bars, and then like you see this woman crying outside, and you pull out a handkerchief, you look pretty slick.
You're a hero.
Yeah,
you're a hero.
Yeah.
You're a gentleman. So, and that pocket knife could be inserted with a handkerchief or anything that kind of makes you start thinking about the future and being prepared for it.
Yeah, that's a good one. If I had to give two, like I would say one would be invest in sleep. So I would say get a really good pillow. That would be one. I have really good pillows because like I kind of have trouble sleeping, but like at the same time, I'm worthless if I get less than like 6 hours of sleep. I try to get 8 hours every night, and if I get less than that, yeah, I'm pretty much completely worthless. So I actually had to make that investment and get good pillows, get good sheets, and I have a really good mattress. If I were to pick one company to be a sponsor of this podcast, it'd be Tuft and Needle. Okay, those mattresses are the best thing that has ever happened in my. It's like top 3 purchases I've ever made in my life is to get a Tuft and Needle mattress. If you're looking for a mattress, buy that one. They are amazing. So.
It's funny you say that because I was just literally thinking over this weekend about our mattress because mattresses are something where, especially when you get on with life and you get married, like I actually don't know how old our mattress is, and it's way probably past its life. But those are one of those things that you probably don't replace as often as you should. But so, what brand of pillow?
Tuft and Needle.
Well, for both of them.
Yeah, dude. And then I bit into the gimmick of those purple pillows. You ever see the commercials for those purple pillows? I mean, not to slander purple, I was a little bit disappointed. So because for a couple of reasons, it's not like it's uncomfortable, but it's very low. It's like that big. Like so, your neck's kind of like this. So what I do is I stack the Tuft and Needle pillow, it doesn't really matter the order, but I stack them on top of each other. Oh, also that pillow is like 10 pounds. The purple pillow.
Really?
Yeah, it's legit like 10 pounds. It's super heavy. Like if I hit you over the head with it, like it would knock you back. Like you'd be like.
So you win in the pillow fight.
Yeah. Bring that one to a pillow fight for sure. But so yeah, stack them. That's my tip for the day: is get a Tuft and Needle pillow and a purple pillow, and that's the move. Lily, she's a saint because she doesn't yell at me, but I'm the worst sleeper. I'm the worst sleeper. I'm kicking and tossing and turning all night. It's bad. But so invest in your sleep.
I think that's that's something that it took me many, many years to learn. I used to not get enough sleep and I was sick all the time, tired, always had the dark circles underneath my eyes. And my reason for that was I'm going to outwork somebody. I'm going to spend more hours working. But what I was doing was I was taking away from myself because I was not as alert. I was not as quick thinking. And let's face it, when you are without sleep, you are irrational in many ways. Sometimes you're quick to anger. You're quick to, you're on edge the whole time when you don't have that sleep. So I agree with you. You got to get the sleep and you'll be better off for that.
Yeah. Okay. So let me think of two. A good monitor. If we're talking about productivity, dude, a monitor changes the game. It 100% doubles your productivity, hands down.
I would say more than that. So since I had never used a double monitor, well, I had in the past, but I got away from it and I was just using a single laptop. And part of that reason was because for a while there, I was traveling to people's homes all the time to do business. So it wasn't like a
TV.
Give me 45 minutes to set up my situation here. Yeah. No, I just had so you introduced me to a dual monitor on that.
Yeah.
And just simply doing things like trades. So I have a list of the clients, I have a list of the accounts, have a list of the stocks that we're watching. And if I have that all at once, then it allows me to, instead of going back and forth trying to make it work, you got it all there for you.
Yeah. I mean, you look at like all those Wall Street traders, they have like 25 monitors. Like on the what are the trading floors on Wall Street called? Like boiler rooms? Is that what they're called?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. Anyway, they all have like these crazy monitor setups, and they're onto something. And when I purchase something, when I make a large purchase, I literally this is a good friend to have. If you have a friend like me, this is what you want. Where when you buy something like you're gonna spend a lot of money on something, research like every single detail and basically become a master in whatever you're about to buy. And then when somebody's like, hey, I'm looking for a monitor, like, you know which one. It's the same thing for laptops because I purchased your laptop and I can actually like tell you what specs you need, what specs you don't need. I think that's a useful person to have, even though I'm patting myself on the back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was the guy that I would walk into a Best Buy and I would look at kind of the price range and I would point to one and say, give me that one. Without, it's a computer, right? What was my thinking in the past?
A computer, that'd be another one. That might be 3 if I had to pick 3 items. But once you get used to a fast computer, you'll never be able to go back to a slow computer. Because, I mean, like if you value your time and it's like you can spend a little bit more extra money and not have like you don't have to wait for Google to load, like something simple, not even do anything crazy. It's just like, I know like I sound like I'm impatient and I am impatient, but as in terms of productivity, it's like that's precious time that I feel is just wasted when you could just spend like $100 and you never have that problem for the next 5 years. That's like,
instead of watching that internet wheel spin all the time. You and I are working on kind of improving the visual aids within our conference room. Mm-hmm. We've ordered a bunch of monitors that we're putting on the wall, and we're using an old computer just to stream some content that's going to be up there all the time. I remember using those old computers, and it would take 5 minutes to open up, and then once you got it open up, the wheels would spin, and you'd click on something for the internet, and it would spin some more.
Do you remember YouTube lag? Were you a big YouTube guy, like back in the day before like there were content creators? People would just post family videos on YouTube, and there'd be the little gray bar that would so you'd start the video and it'd be like 30 seconds. You'd see that little gray bar, and then that's how much time you had to watch it.
Yes.
Lag. You remember that? Yeah. And that's like not a thing anymore.
Right.
That part of that, or the main reason for that is it's actually 4G. Like that's why you don't have that anymore. It's because like 3G was like super slow, and then like 4G kind of corrected that. And then with 5G, it's like lag's going to be like a thing of the past. So it's pretty cool. So
the monitor, I agree with you. Monitors definitely have improved my efficiency. I agree with you. Sleep, for sure. That's maybe of all the things we just mentioned, if you took anything away, that would be the sleep. Probably the most important, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, invest in sleep. Did you have another thing you wanted to talk about?
Those are the 2 things. I was thinking about something. What I wanted to do is we've been doing a lot of shows on cryptocurrencies, on investing, and we're going to get into some investing here in a little bit here, but life is way more than that, right? Dynamic growth is that whole realm of personal development, finances. So much of it, I think, is that finding that direction in your life that is important to you. And for me, that journal helped me do that. Yeah.
I mean, I might pick it up because, I was rearranging my desk today because anytime I take notes, like not necessarily like thoughts I have or whatever, but it's just like stuff I need to do, I have to write it down. Like I can't just put a note in my phone because I'll never look at it. But I physically need to write something down. So I literally rearrange my whole desk so I can keep a notebook like right by in writing distance.
The worst thing that happened to me when I was first started out in the workforce was those sticky notes, because I would write things down on sticky notes, and then I would have like 16 sticky notes like all over the place, right? Mm-hmm. And there was no organization to it. So the smartphones have definitely helped me kind of keep things organized on things, and we have our management system which does that too. But to me, an old-fashioned journal is the way to go.
It's funny. Sorry, one last thing on journals. I actually have the Galaxy Note 10, the Galaxy Note, and they have that little pen in there that you can literally just pull the pen out right on the screen and it saves it as a note. Didn't use it one time.
Really?
Yeah, didn't use it one time. That was like the whole reason. I was like, this phone looks great because I think I'll actually use that, like just to become more organized and everything. Didn't use it one time.
I'm surprised you still have the pen. I would have lost that within the first probably week of having that phone.
It like clicks in the bottom. It'd be kind of hard to lose it.
No, I could find a way. So what are we looking at the week ahead here, Derek? What are we looking at?
Wait, hold on.
What are you looking at?
I have my topic that I want to talk about as well.
Oh, I thought you already did. Go ahead.
No, sorry. But I mean, it's kind of on the same lines. But I was just wanted to talk about it kind of seems like the country looks to be opening up. Everybody cross your fingers. So I wanted to talk about what some of the stuff that you're looking forward to for the rest of the year. Like not investing stuff, but just personal stuff. Like what kind of stuff you got going on?
You know what? I might be a bad person at saying this. I never changed my life a whole lot when the pandemic happened. So I still went on vacation, and we're going to go on vacation again. I guess if I'm looking for things to open up, I'm afraid for my kids that they almost got used to this, the the whole mask thing and the way that we had conducted, almost as that's the normal. And because Clara, who's 7, she that's really bad. She's 7. She'll be 7 here.
Yeah.
Like at that age, for as long as we've been in masks and dealing with that, I mean, that's what she realizes as normal, right? And I'm looking forward to redoing that into something that is, it's funny because a lot of stores have come out way before that June 2nd deadline and said, hey, we're done with masks. Trader Joe's is one. Did Walmart do it?
I have no idea. I haven't really followed up on any of that. I did see the thing about June, and but yeah, I haven't really followed up on anything.
Yeah, I believe so. Trader Joe's came out and said we're done with masks. At least the Walmart in Chardon, which is near my house, came out and said we're done with masks. So I'm actually, that's very exciting to me that people are kind of taking that on their own to do that. But I'm going to go out and live life just as I've always had. We're going to go on vacation. We're going to go out to eat. We're going to travel. We're going to see family.
Well, I mean your travel options are kind of limited because, I mean, I guess you could go to some places, but if everything's like, I mean, one of the things that we want to do, or one of the things that I want to do is like travel to Europe because I wasn't able to do that last year. But like there's still going to be some restrictions on some of this because it's kind of different how they got hit over there because we were lucky. Like look at all the companies that manufactured the vaccines. Like go down the list, they're all American companies. So they don't have the same supply that we do here. So they're still kind of like a couple months behind us. So, which kind of sucks. So I'm just saying that your travel options are a little limited during this past year. So
for sure.
Sorry, go ahead.
Inside the United States, that's typically where we would travel as well. We went to the Bahamas a year ago, which I don't know if that would be even possible right now. I haven't even looked into it, but all the things that we've had on the docket going forward have all been in the United States. Well, besides Europe, what about you?
Well, me and Lily are going to Austin, Texas. Well, we're stopping through Nashville first, so we're doing Nashville and Austin.
Nice.
Pretty excited about that. And then my family usually does like a beach trip to like the Outer Banks. But we did that last year. But I mean, the whole like limited capacity in stores, massive.
That was when you went through that though, that was right in the peak, basically.
Literally, yeah. We were worried that everything was going to get canceled. We actually went like the week or like 2 weeks after Macy got back from the exact same area.
Right.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah. You weren't as surprised, but I thought that was pretty cool. That like literally and like would have been like really close to each other, like area wise.
Yeah. Very cool. Your birthday is on her son's birthday, and your birthday is on my daughter's birthday.
All October 5th, right?
Yep.
Your birthday is on my my best friend's birthday.
Really?
Yeah. August 7th or 6th?
August 7th for me.
7th? Yeah. Is that right? Nice. It's August 7th. I'll edit that out because he always gets mad that I never remember his birthday.
My wife didn't remember my birthday for the first several years. She would always say, "Hey, we got August 11th's coming up. We got a birthday coming up." And I was like, "Whose?" Because that's not mine. And it took her 3 or 4 years before she actually got that ingrained what my actual birthday was.
I feel like I would get along with her because like I talked to her like because she does a lot of the website stuff for us,
right.
And like I get vibes that I feel like we would get along.
She's pretty easy to get along with. That's obviously why I married her. But,
yeah, right.
Among other things, but
word. Okay, so other stuff that I'm looking forward to. Oh, I'm ready to go to like concerts and stuff. That was one of the things that I miss. Like that's fun, you know.
That's something that I want to do. So you have to mark your calendar. I have no idea when it's going to come back, but when Hamilton the musical comes back to Cleveland, we're going to get office tickets and we're going to go to that. I've seen that live, and it's amazing. I am not normally a musical person. I can't tell you
yeah, you are. Don't lie. You love them.
I think the one musical I saw before that was Les Mis, and a lot of people like Les Mis. I wanted to fall asleep during it, but I watched Hamilton, and it blew my mind. It is just nonstop the whole time, and it's pretty cool. I love the story because I'm an American history nut. But so we're going to go to that. So whenever that comes back, you got to free your schedule up.
Yeah, I mean, you control my schedule, so you free my schedule up.
I will free your schedule up.
All right. I watched. Me and Lily went to see Phantom of the Opera live. That was pretty cool. I feel like it had to be a pretty crappy performance, no matter what you're doing. Like if you're around people with some people that are exhibiting their craft, it'd have to be pretty bad for you to not enjoy the show. I'm pretty easy to please if I'm part of a crowd. I just like watching people like do their thing. I just think it's interesting. Yeah. I don't know. Les Mis, it's in French though, right? That's probably why it sucked.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm probably not. I'm just not a musical guy. This one changed my mind as far as that. I love plays though. I like going to plays and seeing things in live performance, and it's really kind of cool to see that.
Yeah, I like it too. No Metallica concerts. They're not touring. Aren't they done? Aren't they done touring?
I don't know if they're done or not. I give them the benefit of the doubt because they had all those many years of just being an amazing band, but now they're like into stuff like they're doing covers of like 50s show tunes, and like it's just like, what are you doing?
I haven't seen them live, but my brother went to a concert and he said it was a pretty dope show. He said it was pretty good.
I've seen them live several times. It's amazing. I saw the first. That's actually the Metallica was the first concert I ever went to. It was in. I don't know if they still do Lollapalooza in Columbus area.
Chicago. No, it's in Chicago, isn't it?
Well, it was in the Columbus area when I went.
They don't do that here. I mean,
no?
not since I've been here. No.
Well, it's a long time ago, but they're the first concert I saw. Soundgarden opened up for them. They're a '90s band. I don't know if you know Soundgarden or not.
Yeah,
but
Soundgarden.
So I watched Soundgarden and I thought, well, man, these guys are pretty good. And then Metallica came out and it was just night and day. It was like watching a high school team and then a pro team play.
Word. Okay, here's something we could talk about. If you had to see one band this in 2021, alive or dead, who would you see? Not Metallica, because we already talked about them.
I would say probably the original Beatles.
Really?
I think from a historical point of view, you go watch the show. I texted that you asked me what movie should I be watching, and I gave you a list of movies. Which movie did you end up watching?
The Big Lebowski. You ever see that movie?
Oh, yeah, but you've already seen it before.
No, I haven't. No, that's the first time I saw it. No.
So you took none of the recommendations that were offered to you.
I put them in the list, but no, because I think by the time everybody texted me, we had already bought it. So
there's a movie out there. It's on Netflix or Hulu. It's called Yesterday. And it's
I know what you're talking about. But go ahead and explain it.
Yeah, it's an interesting story about the Beatles. The premise is a musician who's just a random guy, not famous, wakes up one day, and the Beatles never existed, except he knows all their songs, and so he's able to go out and play their songs, and then people are like, "Oh man, that's amazing! Like, where'd you come up with that song at?" And he's like, "What are you talking about? That was and it's just a very interesting show. So I would see the Beatles because, I mean, like them or not. They revolutionized music.
Sure. I mean, the way history is written, like it kind of gets segmented, but everything is kind of like just blends into the next thing. And there are some like cases of big jumps. Like the big one I always think of is Nirvana. But even they didn't really invent grunge, but they were just like the big grunge band that went mainstream first. So it seems like there are these big jumps, but there's always that kind of underground scene that's kind of pushing music forward. And then because like the Beatles that was in the book Outliers, where they were just kind of like this garage band, and they would just play at this one dive bar like for hours and hours and hours every day, every week. And I forget when they got discovered on what show was that? You'll have to help me out here.
I don't know the history that well.
Oh, well, anyway, they had their one breakout moment when they had the show in the United States, and then they were big in Britain, but when they became mainstream in the United States was like on American television, and then that's kind of when they blew up. Yeah.
Metallica was that way in the sense that they used to, when metal first came out, they would play their music in bars, and after after it was over, they would hand out like recordings of their music, like on dubbed like cassette tapes, and they would hand them out free to people until they kind of got discovered, and then they became Metallica. That's
kind of what we're doing with podcasts. We're just like, here's free content.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, we're very much like Metallica.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're basically Metallica if you think about it.
So let's turn this. What band would you watch?
Man, if we're going bands, I gotta think, because I'm kind of in like a hip hop thing now. You know how you like listen to rock for a while, then you'll do hip hop. I'm kind of doing like a '90s hip hop thing. So, but if we're gonna say bands, I would say, I think Nirvana would be pretty cool. I think that would be a good show. There was one. Because like all of those bands, like the Offspring, Pearl Jam, Red Hot Chili Peppers. They were all on one show. There was like somebody posted a picture of a stub, like a ticket stub, and it was like Nirvana was headlining, and it was literally like the Offspring, Pearl Jam, Red Hot Chili Peppers all on the same show. Like, could you imagine going to that concert? Or like Live Aid, where you had like Queen. I didn't go down the line of all the other ones. I can't name them off the top of my head. Or like Woodstock with like Jimi Hendrix and like Janis Joplin. Like, there's some of those shows that's like, if you were a fly on the wall or you could time travel, those would be like top 5 places I could go. Those iconic shows like that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Be really cool.
So what else we got going on?
What are you looking for, or what are you looking ahead for this week? This will come out on. Well, I mean, this comes out like next Wednesday, so I guess this is kind of like a where we write about our predictions thing, you know. So we'll see how we do.
What I'm looking for is, so we're in an interesting time right now. I've just released a couple videos and we've talked about, we started asking the questions, why are some of these high flying companies that, mostly tech, that have been reporting such great earnings, why have they been beaten up so much in the past couple weeks? And what seems to be doing well are financials, anything related to the homes.
Dividend payers,
more value type things. There's definitely been a rotation out into value that we're seeing. So what I'm looking at is Home Depot reports earnings on Tuesday, and they are scheduled to report them before the market opens. As I'm looking at the Home Depot earnings, investors are expecting increase in sales of about 25%. And so Home Depot is riding a red hot housing market right now. And the fever for home remodeling is crazy. And if I look at things like some of the things they're selling, like lumber, which is through the roof, I'm interested to see. Home Depot has had quite a run in the past couple months up to where it is now. Fantastic company. I'll be looking to see how they report, if they can keep that momentum going. Everything to me appears that that's going to be the case. Home Depot's making a lot of investments there. They opened up 2 giant facilities in Florida. One of the reasons for that is to serve as kind of distribution hubs so that they can have quicker delivery of online sales. I'll be interested to see if Lowe's is able to close that gap. So if I look at the profit margin between those two companies, Home Depot has a profit margin of around 14% and Lowe's is at 11%. Will Lowe's be able to close that gap? Lowe's actually began to close the gap a little bit last quarter. I guess we'll see if that is just a temporary spike or if that's something that's going to be more long-term. I think both companies are great to own. In my mind, Home Depot is an A+, and Lowe's is maybe an A- or B+. And if maybe you wanted to get more bang for your buck, potentially Lowe's might be there. I don't know. I think both are great companies to own. I think they're in great spaces. I think the housing market is leaning into everything that they are. I think as people get their stimulus checks, they're going to continue to put money back into their homes. So I'm going to be interested to see how Home Depot does. But the other thing I'm looking at is I think that if tech continues to face the headwinds that it's facing now, I think we're going to have, you and I talked last week, I think we're going to have some tremendous buying opportunities, even better than what we've seen last week when Apple dropped down to 122 or whatever it did. In some of these companies, if we continue to see pressure on these companies, I think there are going to be some prices that are available that we'll look back 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we'll think, man, remember when we could have bought Apple for $122?
Yeah. No, yeah, that's crazy. And like going back to Home Depot, it'll be an interesting case study because it had also had like a tremendous run in 2020. So if it like has a great earnings or a great earnings report and it pulls back, then we would kind of assume that it's like the multiples that are causing strife among investors. But
right.
If it's like if they continue to run, then maybe it's more so like the inflation fears that are causing like the tech names to pull back. And then also throw in the fact that they have a dividend, but they're also a growth. So yeah, it'll be a really interesting case study.
That is a very astute observation. That I think that's right on the money. And so maybe that will help kind of be a bellwether to see, companies like that. So next week we have Home Depot. I believe we have basically a lot of the big retail. We've got Home Depot, we've got Lowe's, we've got Walmart, we've got Target, all reporting earnings. So, and a lot of those companies are right up the alley of similar to a Home Depot in the sense that, yeah, they've got some growth to them, but they're dividend payers and they're kind of that, walking that line between value and growth.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to like create a stock in a lab that you would want to own, like it's hard to find a better one than Home Depot, like because it's like solid growth and it still pays a dividend, and then it's just like they make physical stuff. Like there's something about that where you make physical stuff where it's like
Right.
you might get dinged on profit margins because of I mean for all the reasons that having physical stuff you would have lower profit margins than if you were like doing something that was super scalable like software. But I mean, it's hard to come up with a better company to own than Home Depot. There's a reason I think a lot of it's gonna slip my mind, but one of the big either private equity firms or hedge funds, like one of the big Wall Street investor guys, has Home Depot as a significant holding in his portfolio. I forget who it is though.
Because how wrong can you be?
I know. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So what about you? What are you looking for in the market?
I mean, looking back, because we're recording this on Sunday, there's kind of a battle between Elon Musk and the Bitcoin community, not the crypto community, but the Bitcoin community especially, where he said that because of environmental reasons, he's looking to, or they stopped offering, you can't buy a Tesla with Bitcoin anymore, but that doesn't seem to be founded data. It seems to be some other reason why he said that, because if you look at the data, I think there's been multiple studies that show like 70% of crypto or 70% of Bitcoin mining comes from renewable energy, which I mean, it still has a huge carbon footprint just because of the scale of it, but it just doesn't seem like him to not be as pragmatic in his actions. So it's interesting to see how that will play out. And then, I mean, Bitcoin's corrected quite a bit, so I wonder if he's even talked about maybe selling some of his position. So, I mean,
do you think there's something? Do you think there's some underlying reason to this? Like, is there something that maybe somebody rubbed him the wrong way, or does he just like being an influencer in the sense that let's face it, when he came out and said that we're buying $1 billion of Bitcoin, I mean, it was a big move, and it moved it, and people thought, man, Elon Musk is behind this. And then he came out and with his tweets about Dogecoin. Mm-hmm. Is he somebody that just likes to kind of shake things up a bit?
I mean, that could be the case. He's kind of hard to pin down because like think about like all the crazy shit he does, and then normal people want to or expect him to act like a normal person. It's like you're not going to get the guy that puts rockets on Mars, completely reinvents electric cars, dig tunnels under Los Angeles, and then get him to act normally. It's like that's a special kind of person, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could be a lot of different things at work, but I mean, who am I to comment on his brain? But I don't know. But it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
So Anthony Pompliano is a big proponent of Bitcoin, and he was on. You had sent me a video that he was on, and they were interviewing him, and they were getting his reaction to that Elon Musk had came out and said that we're no longer accepting payment for our cars in Bitcoin. And they asked him if that was how negatively this was going to affect Bitcoin. And he said it wasn't. And he said the reason for that was because basically all news is good news. It would draw people's attention to Bitcoin, which would open the door and maybe make them investors in Bitcoin.
It doesn't really, I mean, even if he sells it, it doesn't really change the value proposition of Bitcoin. It's like people don't buy Bitcoin because Elon Musk. I mean, maybe some people did. I don't know.
Some people do probably. Yeah.
The main, the true hodlers, they bought it because of like hedge against inflation, like hedge against central banking, like all these other reasons that don't really factor in the fact that you could buy a Tesla with it. That was just kind of cherry on top of the sundae. So I don't think long term it'll maybe cause some short term fluctuations in the price. But anything significant in a price reduction, you'd probably, if you're a believer in Bitcoin, you'd probably use that as an opportunity to buy, in my opinion.
Anthony Pompliano, to me, seems like somebody, obviously he's super bright. You've listened to him talk. He's
super smart guy, yeah.
Super smart guy. He almost seems to me like an unapologetic supporter of Bitcoin no matter what. And
I mean, he's a military guy. So it's like, he was in the military. So, I mean, like, I don't know. Like he seems to be like he believes what he believes, and then like he did the work. Like you can't say that he didn't do the work. He knows everything about Bitcoin, frontwards and backwards. Like so, he just I don't know, like if it came to the point where like it was a clear dagger that like Bitcoin wasn't going to be the thing, if he would shift his position or not. But you can't knock him because he definitely did the homework.
Yeah, I'm just saying, so he can get into deep philosophical talk about money and Bitcoin and how it relates, and it'll make your head spin. The last time I listened to him, and you and I listened to it, it had me thinking about money in ways that I had not thought about it before.
Right.
But sometimes I think what you have to do is, if you are, I think he has a vested interest in Bitcoin becoming more mainstream with some of the investments he's made.
Yeah.
And that's maybe
Yeah.
why he's also a
Right.
big supporter of it too, is why.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if he claims that 96% of his portfolio is Bitcoin, not crypto, Bitcoin. He doesn't own Ethereum. He doesn't own any. Like, he's a Bitcoin maximalist.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, he would have a vested interest in seeing Bitcoin's price go up.
Derek, if you told me that 96 or 98% of your net wealth, of your wealth, was in Home Depot,
Mm-hmm.
which we just talked about was a fantastic company, I would say that you're crazy.
Yeah, or treasury bonds, or pick an
an asset.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, at my age, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but like,
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
But he's with his. I mean, that's real money.
He
he's
does
talking
like
about.
he does venture capital too, so it's
Sure.
like if I bet you that 4% is a pretty big slice of pie, you know. So it's like, if you believe in it, I mean, who am I to say don't like double down on what you believe in, you know?
Yeah, I would say that a little bit more diversification might serve you.
Well, he's not a financial planner, you know.
He's not. No,
Yeah,
he's
right.
not. But they're but obviously, you know, if he hits a home run on that with that much in there, then, but there comes a point with a risk reward on that, in my mind.
I mean, did you see the well, probably not anymore, but the creator of Ethereum hit $1 billion net worth.
Because it's gone on a nice run ever since you bought it. I think that's probably the reason why it drove the price up.
Right. Yeah. I should tweet about how you can pay for your Crosby advisor fees in Bitcoin and probably just send it right back up to 60.
For sure.
Yeah.
So before we head out into the week, we missing anything?
I don't think so. This was we got to do a little bit of a different format. I hope everybody liked it because I kind of had fun doing it. Yeah.
You threw me off a little bit because right before we started, you texted me that you were going to talk about cheese.
Yeah. We'll talk about that next week. Cheese.
And because I could actually go into fairly deep depth with that. My family is known for, my brother-in-law specifically is known for masterful charcuterie board. Am I pronouncing that? Charcuterie?
I have no idea.
Those big round wheels that have like cheese and so yeah, I can go into.
I didn't know that's what that was called.
Oh yeah, now you do. So you learn a little bit of everything here today.
Yeah, dude. And I'm gonna get a journal. So
perfect. Well, Derek, why don't you take us out into the week?
Thank you guys for listening to Dynamic Growth. If you like the podcast, share it with a friend, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and follow us on Instagram at Dynamic Growth Pod and at Crosby Advisory Group. And we will see you guys next week.
Please remember, Crosby Advisory is a registered investment advisor in the state of Ohio and Florida. At any time, you can request our forms, ADV 2A and 2B, which go into the business practices and qualifications of Crosby Advisory. Today on the show, Derek and I may have mentioned specific securities. That is not a recommendation for you to go out and purchase them, sell them, make sure they are suitable for you. Keep in mind, investing involves risk, and you should carefully consider all risks and fees before making an investment. Investing also includes the potential loss of principal. Crosby Advisory is also a licensed insurance advisor. Insurance products are sold and serviced through Crosby Advisory.